And then he would send me pictures of himself often, right? And here I was 69 years old, he's 58. And then that's the other thing my common sense was going, what would a 58-year-old handsome, quote unquote millionaire that lives in Medina want to do with a overweight 69-year-old woman that doesn't have any money? I mean, it was like really bizarre to me. And he says, I don't care, it's our emotional connection. And I was just thinking to myself, okay, this is really not something that I can subscribe to at all. What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance, and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Welcome back to Vivatude. I'm Lauren Archer, and we are back with Suzanne Newman, who is sharing her very personal story of what happened when she was in an emotionally vulnerable place. She started to develop an online relationship with someone. Over time, there was a sense of trust, and then he started showing her what's possible, at least so she believed, in an investment scam. And where we left off in our last conversation, Suzanne was getting proof that this was working. She was
Proof.
getting proof, right, that she could in fact take her money out. There was this illusion of safety. And so, Suzanne, why don't you pick it up from here?
Right,
What
Lauren.
happened? Yeah.
Yeah, and so over time, obviously, this whole concept, this whole thing that happened, it was pressure. Now it was like, I want us to have a house on the ocean someday, and I really need you to step up. How are we going to do this together? We need to do this together. So all of a sudden it was like, um, you know, we're going to be a partnership here. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then it all started to get pressuring. Well, that's when I started feeling a little bit uncomfortable because, first of all, future pacing, he hadn't even met me, you know, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden it was like, this does not feel right. There was something about that just didn't feel right. The other thing that it felt like it was feeling very, just it was all about money. It all of a sudden, we were into the phase two of Slaughter the Pig, where and one of the things that I had told him during the course of our conversation is a new initiative new company that I'm forming, and that we were going to do $1 million fundraise. And I just said that in because of business. And he made the audacity statement, well, what about the $1 million? I go, what do you mean the $1 million? And I was just like mortified. And here's this quote unquote successful businessman that now is telling me that I could take $1 million that would go into a startup company, right? And invest it in crypto for me. That would be the most illegal, unethical thing in the world and crazy. And that's when my radar went up. I went,
Mm.
you know what? And I remember distinctly at this time, I told him, I said, I will never talk to you about money again. And
Mm.
it was like really, really, I was adamant. I said, don't you ever, I will never do anything unethical. Oh, he pressured me to go to get loans from banks. And I said, absolutely not. He pressured me to, there was all kinds of ways. Well, you could, you don't have to live in that house. You could downsize, or you could move in with me. And of course, he had told me that he lives in Medina and Bellevue, which is all, just a silly, ridiculous story because he's probably in Southeast Asia someplace. Whatever. And
It, they could be any.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. But anyway, so the thing was that it was really interesting in the whole scenario because, and then he would send me pictures of himself often, right? And here I was 69 years old, he's 58. And then that's the other thing my common sense was going, what would a 58-year-old handsome, quote unquote millionaire um, that lives in Medina want to do with a overweight 69-year-old woman that doesn't have any money? You know, I mean, it was like really bizarre to me. And he says, I don't care, it's our emotional connection. And I was just thinking to myself, okay, this is really not something that I can subscribe to at all. And so I ended up at that point, started questioning. And I realized more and more, and this is about the end of February. And I learned, went online and I learned about pig butchering. And when I watched the documentary, I thought, oh my gosh. And the first documentary I watched, which if you Google it and Google John Oliver, he does a half an
Mm,
hour show on it. It's funny, but it's John. I love John Oliver. He's great.
yeah.
But he explains it really well. And I thought, my gosh, this is Robert. This is totally Robert. And so when I realized it, I knew right away I'm not going to get my 2 grand back. It's like, okay, well, Um, but the thing was, was that I figured I'd try to do that. So I basically said, well, I have to move. That was a good thing. So I need that money back now for deposits. And that's what I said. And he basically told me, oh no, you have to invest more to, trade more. And I said, no, I'm not giving you any more money and don't ever ask me. So again, so that was it. So that was what had happened. And it was pressure. It was, just continuous, just, the pushing me to, our future, all these things. And of course, for somebody that's vulnerable like me that thinks about how am I going to age alone, that's like,
Hmm.
I'll take care of you. I'll do all these things. And so there's this piece that's pulling you. But then when I realized it, then I busted him. And I did it very fun. I did it in a very fun way. I first said when he texted me every morning, good morning, every single morning. And so I knew that good morning text would come through, and I already had what I was going to say. And when he said, you have to trade again, and I said, okay, well, I said, no, I'm not giving you any money, but you might find this entertaining. And then I put that link to the John Oliver show on pig butchering. And so there was that. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, and by the way, Robert Victor doesn't exist. I should have checked you in advance, and we're going to talk about that next in this segment, I'm assuming, of, it's you need to Google people. You need to see
Mm,
who they are. You need to understand, who are they? You can do Google searches on their photographs. If it's AI altered, they're not going to show up. On the internet, there's different ways in which you can find out if somebody's a real person or not. And I realized really soon that this is not something. And so I blocked him, and I blocked him for a really long time until one day, I don't even remember what it was. I said something about, by the way, I'm going to do a show on you. I think it was that. So I just kind of wanted to poke the bear a little bit. And he's like, I can't believe you do this to me and all these things. And of course, we had kind of an interesting phone call because he kept saying, I really, I even have a ticket to come up for your birthday. I still have that ticket. And I just rolled my eyes. It's like, yeah, right. And so the whole thing is it was really quite funny. And when I talked to him and I told him, that basically it was, I realized that you know, I could sit there and feel jaded in the experience, and we're going to talk about that in our next segment. But really, what it was about the fact that I needed to tell him that I believe in a path to redemption. And I did that for the main reason that is who I am. And if somebody wants to you know, um, you know, make redemption to me, I am going to unblock him. And so I did. I unblocked him. And so that is how it, and then it was funny because I got a text from him on my birthday. It's like, okay. And it was just, now it's just kind of like a joke, right? But, we had the last dialogue we had was probably about a month ago. And he said something about, I never scammed you. I never did this to you. I cared about you. I once loved you, and all these things. I'm just rolling my eyes. And he said something to the tune of, I'm still in LA. And I just said back to him, I said, Robert, I said, if it looks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it probably is a duck. But I still do believe in a path to redemption. And I hope there's something in your psyche that that will someday realize that taking advantage of people, I can't imagine what an empty life that you must live. And I feel sorry for you. And that's really what it is. I feel sad for him in that realm. It is just who I am. And we'll talk about a little bit in our next segment about healing and what that was like.
That's taking the high road. Well, I hope this conversation has given you some food for thought. We are going to take a break, but I want to close this one out by basically reminding listeners that you could be anyone. You could be
Hmm.
very intelligent. You could be discerning. But it was what I heard Suzanne say, it was the consistency, right? It was that every day, the text, the hope,
Every
the
day.
emotional piece, the connection. It was as if he really saw you. And
Hmm.
so we're going to come back and talk about how if this does happen to you, how to catch it, and then how not to get jaded, how to
Hmm.
keep your heart open so that you can still move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, we'll be right back.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, one each week. We help you revivitude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.